can become more or less unstable because they're not going to be doing any more or less trespassing. Right now, you've made a very clear reason behind the eviction. You would face opposition from the city council, from the sheriff, from the entire city of Bloomington around that eviction and around its motivations. And you have made it indefinite notice. I would prefer that we do have it. I would prefer that we have a no notice because this is about an unchanging action. I don't think there's any clear control within the confines of the motivation behind this eviction. And so on top of transparency, I think it would be good to have a transparent date so that we know if you do have plans, if you think this eviction truly is necessary, that you have a date that you are aiming for in the location.
So what I've heard so far, maybe there are more than what I've heard is three things that we describe as the biggest problems with this. One is the trespassing. That's true. I think that's a made-up thing. It's a made-up law. It's not really a crime except that somebody wrote it down in court. And the fact is, anybody here that's not Native American is trespassing. We all are. And nobody needs to evict all of us just because of that. So trespassing is a made-up thing. We can all agree it's whatever it is. Okay, the second thing I heard of is we don't have sanitary facilities. It's not a sufficient living space out there, and that's fair. I would like everybody to have their privacy in a bathroom and running water, whatever they need to actually live in a sanitary condition. That's fixable too. It's certainly at least as fixable as deciding that we don't want to evict them. That's a fixable issue. And if there's going to be a statement that says we're going to set a date that no matter what, we're not going to evict anybody before April 1st, given these conditions. One of our conditions is we have to put bathrooms and running water out. We can do that. Surely you can come up with a number for how much that's going to cost, and compare that cost to how much it takes for people with guns to go out there and harass them. The third thing I think of that I've heard from Chicago is that it may become unstable, which is, with all due respect, that's one of the more vague things I've ever heard in life. Unstable. It's an unstable, okay, yeah, sure. You can put that in our statement too. The statement is, we're going to evict no earlier than April 1st, assuming we have sanitary conditions, assuming that it doesn't become unstable, come up with a real definition, we're going to turn it into we come up with an actual thing that means that. And based on whatever that definition is, we can say, assuming things don't become unstable, which means nobody with guns has to go out there and harass people, which is, I think we can agree, is the primary reason to be unstable. And assuming that these things are handled by the county and the city, we need to get them involved. Assuming those things are handled, we don't need to even call into question whether they're trespassing. We just say, we're not going to do anything. And instead of spending money on having people go out there and cause problems, we can spend money, we can find money somewhere in our budget to give them bathrooms and to give them water. And based on those things, based on the fact that we are upholding our own responsibilities, we won't do anything to them until at least April 1st. So if we want to say until May 1st, if we want to say until April 2027, I'd be okay with that. But I decide what that date is. And then we just put some conditions in. Assuming that we uphold our side of this responsibility, we're not going to do anything about it.
I understand what you're saying about there could be some kind of emergency situation that might change your ability to have a guarantee. We definitely want to do this. I understand something so guarantee would be inappropriate because that means something coming from people and stuff, right? However, if you were able to put it right, that you have no plans to do this, and as long as nothing changes, I think that can still hold a lot of weight for people who are depending on the word and have hesitations about trusting. You see what I mean?
Because you received a lot now, and yeah, I think I don't want to see any of this increase go.
I just wanted to, so you're saying that there's a commitment from the sheriff's department that there's, that the evictions are not gonna happen, this is city property. So the Thomson area is, I thought you said that it was 60.
It's inside city limits.
Okay, so who's gonna commit that the BPD isn't gonna come in with guns?
So it would have to be,
And so who do we reach out to?
I would talk to, our sheriff is elected, but the chief of police is appointed, right, so that's who you have to work with.
Are you aware of the third-party plans? Are there any backdoor discussions with the county or maybe the city?
Is there any written eviction notice for the 15th that has been delivered out to people up here?
Well, that was delayed because folks were hoping, again, I think those folks were hoping that people into one of the places necessarily so this weekend before the 15th. That's, at this point, if, it is not, we're telling you it's not, no longer enforced. So if there's a decision, for reasons that have already been outlined, to clear the space, and that could be April 1st, it could be May 1st, it could be whenever, right? Because of the issue where it's been.
He said that day.
We will issue a new notice with plenty of opportunity for folks who are staying there to get moved. Now, the other thing I'm going to add, because we have a lot of things going on all at one time. As you may know, we have been trying to secure a location and the funding to develop our justice complex, which will replace the justice building on 7th and College. And we had a property identified, the county council said no, and we've had the Thomson property for years. I don't remember that, but it's been years.
2001,
When was that?
2001, I believe.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've owned that property. So I know we had talked initially as a board and with our council colleagues in the county about trying to create some sort of affordable housing, doing all these things, and then it was, oh, this may be a site for the Justice Center. So we actually had the space investigated for that purpose. It would cost so much money and take so much time to prepare that property that we moved on and identified the guard park site. Now, at that meeting of the county council, when they said no to the guard park site, we actually had on that agenda the sale of the Thomson property. Because we didn't see any need to hold on to it, right? Because if we're not going to use it for what we thought we were going to use it for back in 2001, why are we holding on to it? We could use the money to help fund the Justice Center project elsewhere. But we pulled that agenda item because we don't know what the council wants to do. But at some point, that property may go up for sale. When that goes up for sale, it is out of our hands.
The council has to approve this. That is what it is.
That's correct. Yes, that's
I think it's in your hands.
And the council seems so far from what they said to you, quite uninterested in this situation. And thus,
It's not a matter of, there are two separate things that are coming together. The sale of the property is because we don't have a purpose for it and we will need the money to put toward the building of the Justice Center.
so if you.
And that happens to overlap with the fact that right now there are people staying there, right? So that is something else that's going to potentially come up, right? And so that, but everyone will know if it happens. Everyone will be aware, it will be on both the council agenda, it will be on a commissioner's agenda. It's not going to be done secretly. It will all have to happen at a number of public meetings.
But the sale would be your choice.
The sale is a choice with the county government. It would be council and commissioners who both have to decide to it.
So yes.
Yes.
So you are responsible for approving.
We're one party of two that has to approve it.
And they can choose to not.
So it seems like it's very much easier, man, if it's one to be put up for sale, because you can say no, you can leave it. And while, yes, the city council can say yes, although they seem to have been making.
It's not up to the city council, it's the county. That's okay. I just want to make sure we're all.
No, I appreciate it. So even if the county council approves this, you can say no and still maintain this, still, so this is going to happen, even if the government wants to sell the site.
We are breaking our own health code in terms of having a campsite. And we are not following city zoning. And so I can't control what the city's going to do about that part either. I hear you. I know people are, and it's been postponed indefinitely. We can take under advisement what you're asking for, but that's not something that I don't think any of the three of us are willing to do a writing right now, but I'm certain that we will talk about it and make a decision together about what we are willing to commit to writing. And that's all I could offer.
Yes, and so Gabriel asked me to speak to what I saw in camps, and I didn't see everything, but what I saw was, and I interacted with a number of residents, including Ash. Thank you very much for your generosity in speaking to me and showing me, opening your day to Councilor Henry. Yes, I saw.
Speaking of going to camps and she's.
So TSD, can you mute people until we can call on them? We will call on folks on Teams.
What I saw was a lot of people who were trying to do the best that they could with very little. And so that's, I think, what everybody was spaced out. There are a lot of people who were not there, who come back intermittently. There were some small piles of trash. There were tents that were, some of which were insulated, some of which were not. I think we saw one cap the entire time. We were there, which was about 2.5 hours, and it was revelatory. So again, I thank you for making that experience possible. When we talk about the types of events that would prompt us to clean out the camp, what I really think of is what happened in January 2024. And when Mayor Carrie Thomson just got elected, we had, I believe, 2 murders in homeless camps. And those were not caused by people with guns. That was caused by someone who unfortunately had mental illness, who, and we have horrible systems for managing mental illness. And the solution that she saw was to clean out the camp because that happened. Because it's impossible to handle that any other way other than sending in people with guns. And that makes the entire situation unstable. And so we don't anticipate that happens. We hope that that will not happen because one of the things that we learned last weekend was that if someone who is unstable comes into the camp, there are system rules. And people work together to sort of get each other help. And they work together to provide a safety net in the encampment for people who are part of that community. And so my guess is that if somebody came in with that profound mental illness, hopefully someone would see that and report that. And so there's a system of trust that exists in that camp just as there is in society. And so, but it's that type of event. It's not sending in people with firearms who are part of law enforcement because again, that's not going to happen here on the county side. And so that's what's been represented, that's what's going to happen. But when we say that this is not going to happen, definitely we need until certainly the weather's warm. And I think also part of the conversation that needs to take place is getting a protocol in place, getting a series of discussions in place talking with not only those people who are present today, but with frontline workers who are there in the community as well. And so obviously that's not going to be part of today's conversation, but that's something else that we very much need to work toward as well.
I know that you can't give us the date because it's a moving target. However, part of the biggest reason that resources were scrambled so quickly, part of the reason this has gone so poorly for you, is that you gave 7 days notice, and the county has to give 48 hours notice every week. Can we ask a guarantee that you give us a 30-day notice, allow us to get our resources out? Like I said, we don't support eviction at all. At the very least, you have to give people time. 7 days is completely inadequate. I think if you are actually going to be a process, a 30-day notice should be a very easy pass. And I think that'll build trust. And I think that's important. So I think that's something that I would really like to codify. I think it's super easy. I also want to hard on, because you brought this up immediately. I agree. People are safer indoors than they are outdoors. However, there aren't enough indoors. I'm not sure if you heard me earlier in my speech. According to all of the data we have now, there are 259 fixed beds, and that includes resource. That is 45 beds short of the January census resource. So, like, while I appreciate the sentiment, people are safer inside, there isn't enough inside. Once you understand there isn't enough inside, understand that evicting is pushing people not indoors, but further outdoors with less items. Like, I want that to be completely explicit that no action taken during winter is helpful. No action during
Safer tenants than we want.
Can you tell me then, and it's certainly not what we've heard, Angie, from Health Net in terms of beds, and it is always a moving number and of how many spaces are available, et cetera. But, so we need to figure out how to find out how to create more short-term emergency shelter spaces. Yes, I'm hearing that. No? Okay.
Many of us have shelters for a variety of reasons.
Okay.
I'm sure you can personally relate to that one in this world, which you have control. I suffer bathing spells and breathing spells whenever I have space goes to surface products, moving products.
Okay.
Many different items in my so I choose to spend most of my time outdoors.
Okay.
And unfortunately, there's no such thing as people space in the precise side.
Okay. Thank you.
I would like to add some of my personal experience that represents the things that we keep talking about sanitation, we keep talking about shelter beds, we keep talking about people being safer inside. There's never been any argument about people being safer inside. It is not the case that we are advocating for people to stay outside forever and ever. That's not what anybody is necessarily asking for. We understand we're not activists for living on the fringes of society, right? We are trying to protect people because they don't have any other options right now. I'd like to return to the point about asking for in writing agreement that 30 days is going to be a new heads out time. Just recently, I've been helping some of the folks in the camps move out of ground tours, which is, I understand, that was not you guys, but the very first time I ever seen a needle in these camps was in a trash bottle, right, in a dedicated trash zone. The very first time I encountered human feces was because the camp was being torn apart, right? So like all of these other issues, this is irrelevant. We really need to talk about this. None of this matters. The sanitation work, that people do what they can, what they have, because again, people want to be clean and healthy to the best of their ability. But again, 7 days is not nearly enough. I had to bust my ass. I was so exhausted. And we couldn't take everything that people needed. They didn't have bedding for the same night that we were moving. And I'm dodging like the chain flail attached to the bulldozer, which is still running, even though we're just desperately trying to squeeze in there. We have permission to do that, right? You see what I'm saying?
Where was this?
It's irrelevant. One of the camps is closing.
Can we just, I've been notified that you can't hear very well, so what I'd like to do
here on out, like, that is the thing you can guarantee. And again, that little time, like, I put my life on the line potentially to help these people get what they needed to survive, you know, the same night. So, is that possible? Can we get a yes or no on 30 days? It makes everything so much safer and easier if we have time to gather resources to do that.
Do you know what the city offers? I know that their period of time is different, but I'm just curious, what does the
It's
city?
30.
30 days.
Which is why we would ask that it would be consistent, and then it would make everything easier when people come down. Like, yeah, this is a really acute crisis precisely because we had 30 days to one camp, which is manageable. It's still really hard, still an incredible ask, but then 7 days was desperate, and it was on the same day for both of them.
Can we get a yes or no to that?
We get a yes or no.
Well, you can't really take an official vote. I will say that I support it. And, you know, obviously if possible, I think we need more, but we need a short, well, let's write something up and we can.
We're asking for it now because it's very easy.
I just said I support it.
Yeah, I support it, and what we could do is work to get it on the agenda for next week's meeting, and nothing's happening next week, so we can officially vote on it still before Christmas.
Are you all right with that?
Yes, and we can't just make a decision like that.
You're not the mayor.
It is the law for us to do that.
We can say we support it, but it won't be binding until we vote on it.
Right,
Exactly.
Are y'all good to get your constituents to vote that through next week then? Yes?
On that
We're gonna vote
issue,
it.
yes, and then we have others to talk through, so we have to figure out the remainder of it. So we have, you know, a list of the things to get across on this.
So I think it's a very good point. You can't just promise something in this room that can be binding. There's no way to do it. But I think you can come up with a date when you will have a draft of what the statement will be, what our statement will be. And then we can, once we have that in front of us on that date, publicly post it. More important that we post it for the people who are most directly involved. To, you know, you put it out there on a board or whatever it takes. I mean, there are other places in town where we do that communication. As of that date, we have a hearing, public comment, and then at the end of that public comment, come up with you know, maybe the next draft of it. Do some comment on that. With the understanding,
That pushes us into next year, if you're okay with that, because there's no way we can do all of that before next year.
I think there's something you can
Point
communicate
that out.
with it.
Yes,
It seems like there are folks in the team.
there are.
Yeah, sure. There's also three hands.
Yeah, that's who we get on.
Second point, I appreciate my comrades trying to operate this year as compromise at however, none of us are going to be more housed in 30 days. I was just not going to be cured in 30 days. So maybe another compromise that I want to posit is agreeing not to sell until spring, since that seems to be the largest mitigating factor of the property owner available.
And I hear him say that don't sell until spring. I would tell you just the mechanics of what we have to do in order to sell it. It's probably a 2 to 3 month process anyway.
It's not gonna.
So like, mechanically, I don't think it can happen until March or
So why are you using that as a reason to try to evict now?
No, I'm not using that as a reason. I'm just telling, what I'm saying is this county, this property will not always belong to the county. It may be sold in a year, it may be sold in 5 years. So to set up a series of rules, et cetera, at some point, we're not going to be able to property. That's all I'm saying. I'm just being transparent, so that in a year, if property goes on, for sale, we don't have people coming back going, you told us we could use this for this forever. No, I'm saying that this property belongs to the county now, and it will, at some point, no longer belong to the county. It will not happen. I'd say it would take at least 90 days, if not more, to sell that, and that would be expedited, and I don't see that happening before. So,
I think it's
We're
extremely
very
difficult to
beyond
sell in
spring,
6
so.
months, but
yeah.
I think 30 days
TSD, if you can do that, I cannot see the screen. Thank you. ER is the first one.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everybody. My name is Erin Reynolds-Nyland, and I am the Housing Solutions Director with Heading Home of South Central Indiana. Our executive director spoke on Tuesday night, I believe, about like just appreciating everybody's work so far. I would like to say, and kind of give a quick background about the organization and my role in the organization. Recently, we were able to get a grant from the Lilly Endowment to deploy 6 street outreach case managers who were focused on housing those who were unsheltered in Monroe County. And since late October, we've deployed 5 case managers who are actually, I think, interacting a lot with the people who are in this room. And on behalf of them and myself, the community, thank you guys for the consistent support that you are providing to our unsheltered neighbors. And I want to say that I really would love to figure out how we can align and resource, not share, but to be able to know like how to leverage each other and unify our efforts and say that we're all going about this and knowledge of awareness of what each other are doing, because I would really hate for any kind of resources to be duplicated, but if we can align and unify for those who are at the forefront of this issue, I would really, really enjoy that. And then 2, I do want to say that overall, I supervise the street outreach case managers and 3 diversion case managers, but I'm also part of more systematic supports in developing those and aligning everything that has to do with trying to house and make sure we keep our unhoused neighbors safe. And so part of that is coordinating and orchestrating the deployment of housing case managers once we learned that this was going to be shut down. So I was able to try to help coordinate at least a message and consistent engagement to make sure that our neighbors aren't flying under the radar. Nobody's going missing through displacement, which makes our jobs a lot harder, making sure that these people are safe and engaged. And so more systematically, outside of the direct service, I am working on implementing and have grand ideas that I want all of you guys to be at the table for when it comes to a protocol. There is a heading home encampment guide, I think it's called. It's not a protocol necessarily, but it's a guide that is, it takes evidence-informed experiences into what is a dignified and humane way if an encampment must be shut down. This is the way that we go about it. Myself, Mary Morgan, who is going to be communicating with the county council member or commissioners to say hey, heading home can help organize and unify these encampment protocols. And if these things do have to be, if the camps have to be closed, then this is exactly who is mobilized and when, and what are the terms under which we're closing the camps. If it has to happen at all, but then I totally agree, evictions, especially in winter, are undignified and put a lot of people in a really, it puts people in a bind and risk their safety. So I just wanted to come on and say that there are overarching protocols that we have a path forward with, and I see so much opportunity here to move forward and to unify and to share each other's passion and just really work together. So please keep just awareness of kind of what I'm doing. If you are curious about reaching out to me or how I can reach out to you, I would love to get together to let you guys know what the opportunity is and when those conversations start happening, because it doesn't happen alone. It doesn't happen with just one person or just a group, right? Like you guys gotten really, really far with the opposition and advocacy that you've done, and I think that's incredibly admirable. And I'd love to team up and use your experience and support in creating a protocol that is dignified and safe. So please, my name is Erin Reynolds Nyland. Please feel free to reach out, find my name on the website. And thank you just all for being here and the work that you're doing for our community.
Okay, thank you. We haven't set a timer on anybody, but we'd ask commenters to keep their comments brief because we do have an overall time limit due to other meetings. Can TSB put the next person on?
Hello, my name is Zach Cameron. I'm a Bloomington resident. I just want to say, one, I want to thank you for postponing the eviction. I think it's kind of a shame that you were considering a winter eviction in the first place to begin with, but it's nevertheless positive that you are now postponing it indefinitely, so I think that's good. I also want to say, while I think 30 days is bare minimum, the fact that it sounds like we maybe got that down, coming down the pipe, we don't have a formal agreement yet, that's also positive, so thank you for that. But beyond that, before all of that, I just want to point out that I've heard from several different people in county officials in the meeting so far, so at least 3 or 4 different reasons why you might one day need to evict them anyway. The health code, zoning, maybe one day you might theoretically want to sell the property. Okay, that sounds to me like you're kind of grasping at straws, trying to find reasons why you might one day want to evict them. If you do that, where do you think people are going to go? You're just moving the problem around from one place to another. And if you actually want to solve the problem, homelessness is a housing problem. If you actually want to long-term solve the problem, you need to spend the next 6 months working around the clock, giving these people housing and resources. That's the answer. And so I appreciate the progress that's been made in this meeting, it sounds like, and the postponement. That's positive. If you actually want to solve the problem, we have answers, housing and resources. Focus on that for the next 6 months instead of focusing on trying to find reasons that you might want to theoretically evict. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's exactly what we can talk about if you all want to, which is what does that housing look like? How do we do it? What do those resources look like? How do we do it?
I think Matt would like to, I'm sorry.
I don't have it.
Matt would like to discuss that.
Okay.
I am personally just cannot, I've never found a way to get those on current. I take most of the season work outside. I camp outside most of the year from Michigan, so it doesn't really bother me very much. I just, it's better than that now.
Yeah, just on the issue of selling property. So my understanding is that county has to approve it, so that could take place. You guys have decision making before when that could happen. You guys are like, can you make to say that you would not sell during this weather in other situations? Is that, or I mean, if this is the issue right now, I imagine if you have the option to sell, it could take 2 or 3 months. If it's November, you could say.
Why do you want to sell it so badly?
This is taxpayer money. And
And constituents are using it to live, right? Why sell it?
it was actually for sale for a long time.
But you can pull that back. You don't need to keep trying to sell it. Right? People have said ideally, you don't sell it to people that live there indefinitely, so why sell it?
Having people live on that property is not a long-term sustainable solution because the city will come after that problem and solve that their own way. The state will come after that problem and solve it their own way. stop is not a permanent stop. And
So y'all will do the city or the state's job of evicting it now rather than letting them take, that
it's
action.
better we keep local control of your local problems than see that to the state desk.
I'm glad that we have an understanding that the evictions are happening currently. I think the concerns of my friend here are really valid, that long-term solutions, not really addressing the kind of I think primarily ordinance changes to allow camping in certain scenarios, or even a property that you approve, that you have resources, bathrooms, change the ordinances around tiny home complexes, low barrier housing, like and adding incredibly low barrier housing. This one cannot get into housing, so they will likely live the majority of their life outdoors. The county does have the ability to appropriate parcel of land, push for zoning, buy it, purchase it, or resources to make sure that people like Ash, and there are many people, special cases, do help this state, even if housing is not a definitive long-term solution. So I'd say primarily one, locate, land buy, or maybe private donations. I'm sure people have been at their willing to donate as well. Establish what resources you need to have present to find a health code, petition the council for that money, make it happen, build it out, and hopefully you can do that before you ever have to pick this camp. We can move people to a stable spot. A lot of people are not in long-term on-house situations out in the woods. With the lack of stability from evictions, it's like that when we start getting the phone our ordinance. And so a stable campground or stable, incredibly low barrier housing is a jumpstart into housing, right? Or is a long-term solution for those who cannot be housed.
Can you commit to not selling the land until people have moved into long-term housing solutions? Because that is something you can do. And if you don't want to see this issue to the state, you can give that commitment, right? You can not sell the land until people have that long-term housing. Because otherwise you're just going to be causing more harm by evicting premature without actually having any sort of plan. Why not develop that plan despite however long it might take?
We can take all of that under advisement, but I will tell you that that's a very nebulous concept to say long-term housing because there will be new people. There will be people who have long-term housing. But then there will be new people, and then when does that stop? And so that stuff, we have to nail that down. And it's a concept that we can talk through.
We have to stop the cycle.
Yeah.
And, well, I absolutely agree with that. I think there was a lot more you were saying on that than just long-term housing. I think it's a bit of an unfair statement to just summarize it as that. I think you had a lot more, plans in mind, and a lot more pertinent suggestions around the concept of low barrier housing that can have new people come in. It was still not like a permanent solution for the individual person, but rather a way for people to have a safer form of shelter and housing for long-term issues like homelessness. And so I think you personally get a lot of great points, and I think giving attention to those points in that plan.
Explicitly, I do want to just put on record that this is a deferral to their points that were on this topic. I really think it's more valuable to hear their opinion than even mine. So I'll make sure that maybe next week I can speak about that.
I just want to kind of Commissioner Thomas and I found our first piece of common ground this evening. I think some Congress are forgetting the nature of homelessness. Many of us are outside for all kinds of reasons. Everyone has a very unique story. One common thread is largely too severe mental illness. I'm thinking of one of my neighbors specifically that has severe paranoid episodes, and every time the drums visit us to monitor us for a little while, she gets quite inconsolable. And the reason that we're able to deal with her in our current situation, that sounds very specific. The reason we're able to support her in our current situation is that, one, like Commissioner Vera pointed out, we are quite spread out. We do keep our space. And then two, we are de-escalation trained. We have been homeless around other homeless people for a long time. we don't have to talk each other down. And if she were in some sort of, housing situation, maybe she got placed in Concord or what have you, the second she had, an incredibly severe episode and, had some sort of interaction with, the staff there or what have you, she would be unhoused again. And so I think that is one of the most important reasons to underscore that there has to be a different solution than predicting.
Yeah.
We're not all gonna be inside, clearly not all of us want to be in the woods forever. But just, there has to be a better solution than either you go inside or you throw all of your stuff in the dumpster. That's very weird.
Did you want to add anything? I just wanted to.
Yeah, I understand. They basically said,
And the reason I honed in on the specific question about long-term housing was because that was the question that was posed. But I have written down low barrier housing, campsite facilities on homes. I wrote it down. So I just want to make sure you knew that I'm listening.
No, no worries.
Thank you.
What I have is a question or action that you'd like to add into this. What I'm imagining, based on some of the issues with the Thomson property being city-owned technically, or it's inside city limits, so the county owns it, so there is complication. Let's say hypothetically that this land or land of comparable or bigger size that existed was county owned, and there was, my question for you all would be, is there any way for there to be land in the county that would be similar to the Thomson property land, but would be outside of the city or state jurisdictions? And then my question for you guys would be, let's say this land that exists now, or this hypothetical land that could be donated or could be community fund-based or what have you. That land, what would be maybe a vision for it, just existing as the Thomson property is now, but without having that looming possibility of city eviction? Is that kind of, would that be the most satisfactory outcome? Or if that was the situation, what would then you want to see from the county's events?
I've seen three primary concerns with that. The first being that it would not be possible for land in the county to house in state jurisdiction. The second being that if it were outside of city limits, it would be quite far from any of the services that we currently maintain. We wouldn't be able to visit the work center, we wouldn't be able to go to the library, food banks, any of that. And then the third is that I'm assuming one of the building code violation building code violations that was shared with us is that if we were an official campground, we would need a security force. If there were security force monitoring this property at any time, it was, people who may have, more severe issues closer to people who, even if they did not have guns, even if they had, everybody here in the world, all the mitigations we love to talk about policing, they would still have the power to arrest. And I would like to highlight the story of our beloved Miss Kim, that we lost this fall. She was arrested on some misdemeanor charge, and died in holding. And the cause of that was never really fully determined to my knowledge. No one really quite knows the story that happened there. And I think no one's honestly really looking into it. But, we miss the crazy funny old lady that used to bust on the sides of my truck. So, there's a couple people online.
Yeah, why don't we bring someone on? One hand raised, if you could bring them on.
Hi, this is Katie Morris with Hotels for Homeless. I missed the beginning of this, also another issue with teens. From what I understand, the eviction has been stayed. I would like to express my deepest gratitude. I truly cannot thank you enough. Each and every person that had a say so or was able to help make that decision, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As far as what Aaron Reynolds was saying from heading home, I would just want to absolutely second that in every way, shape, or form. I would like to collaborate with any and all other social services or organizations or groups who would like to help. I will go ahead and give anyone that's listening here my cell phone number. You can reach out to me. I answer my phone 24/7, 365. My phone number is 812-219-8817. Our email address is h4hbloomington@gmail.com, with the number 4 being between the 2 letter H's. If there is anybody here who can think of anything that we can do to help, please let us know. You can call me, text me, email me. We do have a lot of short-term and long-term solutions in the works. Clearly, Hotels for Homeless offers hotels. We also offer telephones to help people get in contact with us so we don't lose track of them, because that is a big thing. I remember in 2020, with the seminary eviction, it took me 31 hours to find 28 people. And I mean, I didn't get a stop. I was on the phone while I was using the restroom. I was on the phone while I was eating. My children got zero attention, and it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. So if this is going to happen at some point, the first thing we'd like to offer is cell phones to everybody so they can be in contact. The second would clearly be hotel rooms if it was an emergency weather situation, which I pray that it never is, because that is insane. And then also caseload. As far as long-term solutions, we have some other organizations in the works. We have Tommy's Trailers. We own a trailer. We would like to give it away to somebody. That is affordable housing. We have plans to get more. We are working with multiple different trailer courts. It's between $500 and $600 per rent. That is affordable housing. We're working with Area 10 that has an apartment open right now for someone over the age of 55. We are working with a veterans unit who is there to provide trailers just to veterans and housing just to veterans. We are starting Kirk's Cars, which is going to allow transportation to be given away at no cost to those who are experiencing street homelessness, including drivable RVs with beds in the back of them. We need help with all of these things. And this eviction, we're getting ready to do our Christmas program, which I'll tell you this morning when I showed up, I had explained to my family that we've done this for 6 years. If this eviction goes through, there's no way we would be able to do it. Our resources will be sucked dry in a matter of moments. So thank you for that, because now we will be able to do that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought with the Christmas program. But we want to make this happen. We want to offer all of these resources, short-term and long-term, and we want to work with anybody and everybody who also wants to work with us on these, and we are open to suggestions, ideas, and also if anybody in the world can volunteer at the emergency winter shelter, please, dear God, go volunteer at the winter shelter, please. That's all I got at the moment, unless anybody has any questions.
Do you want to go ahead and hear from someone else online first, if they've not spoken, and then come back?
Mel's been waiting for a while online.
Yep. Might be Lorraine again, but I don't know. They only gave us an initial L. Well, so once we unmute them, it will still show you until they, so it will have to be, yeah. So that's the
They left the meeting.
Right. Yes, you can. I thought I heard someone. Oh, shoot. They're still there. Yeah, hands up again. I'll try again. So there's something going on with the connection with Al because the whole meeting they were on.
Can you hear me finally?
Yeah,
Yep,
I
got
you. Don't leave. What
Can
you
you
got?
finally hear me?
Yes.
This is literally the only time on Teams today that it allowed me to unmute myself. I'm just gonna go on record for that, maybe find a different streaming platform. And now I can't hear you all at all, so I'm gonna keep talking, hoping that you can hear me. As has been passed, there's a possibility that this point has already been made. We're talking about the property being up for sale, issues with state and city zoning and codes. There was an idea that was floated around about the property being able to be sold to a nonprofit organization or a private organization to kind of bypass that. I would like to float that as a potential. I don't know what Heading Home's status is, if they're 501c3, and I'm not sure if that's something that Heading Home has looked into. I do also want to say I really appreciate Aaron coming on here today, and I'm trying to ask this question, like, knowing that everybody's earnestly trying to show up where they can. But if Aaron is still here, I don't know that our people have met any of their outreach team. And that is speaking for like those of us who are doing outreach at RCA as well as the folks who live there. So something's not, the connection's not linking. And I do really earnestly mean that not in a like hostile or accusatory way, just like where is that missing link happening and how can we bridge it? Because it does really sound like, especially after your executive director showed up and after you showed up, that you want to create the opportunity for this collaboration. So let's find a way to do it for sure. That's my kind of thought around there. I think, you know, Thomson property is already owned by the county right now, and it's 95 acres roughly. It already has people who are living there. We have underscored that not everybody is going to be able to find a permanent housing solution. And frankly, if we can even try to put a timeline on housing crisis and houselessness solutions, then like you're greater than me. I don't foresee this being a better issue sooner. I see it being a bigger problem with federal government decisions and state government decisions. So I would be remiss to even attempt a timeline. I think right now the only thing we can do is look at protecting the assets that exist already for the community and how they're being served. And so I do really urge considering, number one, not selling Thomson property, and number two, if you do sell it, selling it specifically to use as a bridge program of some sort. And if that has to be through 501c3, then that's an avenue to explore. But this is the only way that we can actually keep people safe with the power that we have at the county level. And I'm done on that. Thank you. I'm glad we can finally do it.
Thank you.
I really think that there's legitimacy behind a long-term outdoor campus solution. Once again, because while I would love to support ordinance changes in small communities, there are still those who cannot anchor even though very present. So one, I'll be fighting for you against the planning commission because I love your policy. But two, I know that one of the things that was talked about in a campus facility is the need for security. And cops are, even SSOs are implicitly escalatory because they have the implicit state power to pronounce things to people, via arrests. But our also police do, they brutalize. So police aren't an option. The community will not trust a place with a strong police presence. That's just history. History has done that. And what I'd like to propose is maybe an alternative and looking for the legality of these avenues is working with the community in a self-policing way. Maybe they get organized into a 501c3. You have a tax number, you can slap on it, you can send it off, right? But the community itself and citizens, concerned citizens, can help, make sure everyone's okay, do check-ins, wellness checks, ensure that the community is safe without the need for police involvement. And I understand that involving police makes security easy because they're already legally covered. But if we can find a way to outsource that to us, we are willing to take on that burden. We're willing to, really hold the reins here and walk with you guys through this process, but at the end of the day, police will never create a space that long-term unhoused people want to be in.
Just a quick correction. I don't think planning's against these. I don't think they've ever been presented with a formal plan. So, yeah, exactly.
There are some limitations in state law regarding tiny homes and mobile homes and things like that we can't overrule, we have to follow. So that's one of the things that we've been talking through is how to create a tiny home community, how do we get that built, how do we do it, where do we do it, how do we manage the septic sewage side of it, but I think a lot of these solutions will require public tax dollar investment, right? And that's the bigger question in my mind is let's pull together ideas, but let's also be realistic about what it's going to cost, and then put those things forward and see what the council, because the council does finances, we're executive legislative, right? So the council's in charge of the money. So they would have to be the ones to do that. But it's good to have proposals to put forward to them. What I really like to see us do is create, because I don't think this is just a county issue, and I do understand it's also a city issue, and obviously the city's in the county, right? So I think it would be really useful to have a conversation, because I think, and I'm going to speak for me at this moment, not my colleagues, I'm just speaking for me. We've put millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars, whether it be American Rescue Plan Act money or state dollars or grant dollars from private not-for-profits. We put in millions of dollars to try to address this problem, and I am utterly disappointed at the results we've had so far. And I'm going to be honest about that, because I don't think the community has received what it should have received.
Was the community brought in?
Yes.
Was money brought in?
Yes. But I do feel like we need to have a conversation with members of the county council, members of the board of commissioners, members of the city council, somebody from the mayor's office or the mayor herself. I think we need to have a ground zero. Let's start this conversation all over again, and tackle this in a way that will actually address it. Heading home was supposed to be, because there are all these entities, Wheeler, Beacon, and they're all competing against one another for money. And then they're less efficient as a result. So heading home is supposed to overcome them, right? The idea was heading home is supposed to overcome those inefficiencies by working together. And I know we've got some veteran housing, and I know some things have improved, but I had bigger hopes than what came out of it. So I really like to invite the city to that conversation, to invite a member of county council to that conversation, and start that conversation all over again. What are we going to do, and how are we going to do it, and how much is it going to take, money-wise, effort-wise, how do we do it? And I think we need to start again and do it right this time. That's my take on it. So I'm only speaking for me. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to try to lay out some things I think has been stated very clearly. Ash and Matt, if y'all want to jump in at any point, clarify anything, add to anything, please do. So firstly, y'all have laid out a few reasons for trying to evict this property at some point or another down the line. One, we want to sell the property, which, I mean, I think we've argued against that in the first place, and it seems like the council would be willing to block that at any point to try to do so. From folks that we've talked to on the council, because we see a purpose of this land as being met for constituents.
Bless you.
And so, I mean, that's one thing. Does that seem accurate of like, why are we trying to sell this land when it's there being used? Two, another reason why you're trying to carry out these evictions as soon So you're claiming that there's sanitation issues. One, it sounds like some folks went out and saw that like those issues have always been blown out of proportion. That's always been a talking point of justifying inhumane treatment beyond what's like already done at day to day. But like, also, who are y'all to decide like what is unsanitary when folks are living there and are satisfied with how it is, and have also made like very reasonable asks of like maybe have the restrooms that are nearby open longer term. So I think that's also been a main point. Number three, you're saying that people will be safer inside than outside, and y'all have not been able to ever provide that on an adequate scale. But once again, I think it's been made clear why clear people off of like where they have established their homes and throw their property away, and how is that enabling anything safer? Secondly, Ash and other folks have laid out very clearly that like that is like, yeah, like indoor housing is not at all like a solution for everyone. And so my question is, another reason is that like y'all are saying that the city and the state would step in and carry out an eviction at some point or another if y'all don't do this. My question is, those are the reasons I think I've heard so far. It seems like it's pretty clear that like while the county, city, state, government are all trying to figure out whatever y'all do like indoor housing solutions for folks, that also this land is very useful right now for camping and just long term, like for people to live, because everywhere else has been cleared repeatedly. So why not just have that land set aside as it is, not try to sell it, not try to clear it from time to time, but just have it be there for people to stay permanently. And I don't get why y'all are wanting to step in and take on the role of clearing it just because the city and the state might do so. I mean, you saw what we're doing here. We're like opposing this in any way that we can. So we'll do the same if needed on another scale. Also, y'all can just have those conversations and put that pressure on them yourselves. Who cares if like the relationship is like, strained or whatever? It's still your responsibility, your job, as you say at the start of every single commissioner meeting, to be fighting for everyone within your constituency, to be fighting for the rights of everyone. So once again, why are you trying to clear this in? Whatever reasons you have given that get them clear are not actually backed up by any material. Like, does that sound like, yeah?
Just kind of zigzagging back into the conversation of the high cost of services. I don't think there's a single group of individuals in the city that are more aware of the cost and effort associated with outreach than the ones currently assembled before you. We see these guys on the ground all the time. They put up with all of our stupid, like, hey, I'm getting $10 for this. They, make themselves personally available. I have several people's cell phone numbers in here for any sort of emergency that would go wrong. But that being said, if cost is the concern, I'm pleased to have saved you $35,000 on Monday. The Health Net contract that was approved today, I believe, was $175,000. I think I've seen Health Net on the ground once the entire time I've lived out there. Do you see them more often?
I don't stay out there all day, so I haven't seen them.
Right on. Do you see them downtown ever, like at the services or hanging out anywhere near the library or? Yeah.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while? Okay. My understanding is it's reported that they're going out every single day, multiple times a day, is what they're putting in their reports to the people that pay them. I read the heading home plan for 2025 or 26, I believe 25 was the most recent year, for my Betty Bye story on Monday evening. I was a little concerned that this is touted as like, this is the major plan that our community has come together and put, and I saw exactly one lived experience consultant in the people that wrote it. And I mean, there are good points in the heading home plan, there are bad points in the heading home plan. This is not to, harpoon any agency that's here and trying to do the work. It just seems like, as others have stated before, nonprofits are just not managing their money correctly. And I mean, the people here before you, I don't know if you've seen the meme about the guy that gets mad about his bank and you know, calls to annoy them until they go and fix the ATM, and he screams at them, you know, I have more fish and tape and willpower than your entire organization. These people have more fish and tape and willpower than your entire organization. So anything, if they had to file for a nonprofit, if they had to, you know, work together with some of the folks that have spoken with us today, there's an incredible amount of energy to help solve this problem. And if dollars are the concern, I mean, Help Ourselves Mutual Aid, for which many of these folks work, is on a shoestring budget that is entirely donated by the people within it. And again, they are the most helpful organizations I've personally experienced in the city. So I think maybe if we just, maybe slightly fewer administrators, maybe slightly less grant writing. I don't know where the bulk of people's costs are without looking at their annual budgets, but it does seem like maybe some folks here have some good input there.
And once again, you said earlier, why not just leave the space alone, let the people doing this work continue? And once again, like I laid out all the reasons that you have given for why you clear this. And it doesn't seem like any of that's backed up. So, why are we still trying to get this?
I know that you don't see it in and go on. I can't change it, but I also think that policy is changeable, fluid, and that we're here to change the policy. Clearly the policy has failed. That's why we're here. It's policy that's just failed. And so I agree. The policy is contrived. So why don't we switch it? You know? And I know that's not a today thing, because that is I'm sure Jeff has a few over there sitting in the corner. But any policy that's enacted can have, you know, some sort of caveat or loophole or something that we can work in to make sure that people aren't slipping through the cracks. I mean, your policy is based around a housed society. It's based around, you know, the opinions of people who have always been housed. And one lived experience coordinator has said will never suffice for, you know, the type of details that you need to be ready to feel. It's like, when we're talking about conversations about homelessness, I don't mean just scrap, head home, and restart. I think actually those are points. I'm talking about go into health code, go into zoning, go into county property, talk about like, where does this fail? Because it's not just the works that are failing, it's your policy. And that is something that can change.
This is, I was pointing out, I think I want to espouse some of my thoughts. I take this where I'm trying to help organize this in a way that works well, right? I heard what you said about, you know, changing policy, changing things. Well, the zoning policy, and I also heard that, you know, if we take this outside city limits, that causes other stresses to the people, right? So, in my mind, we can't change the city's policies, but we can work with their policies. We can't change a lot of the health code things because those come down from the state. But we can work to make whatever comes out of those other conversations, getting it something that is sanitary, is probably going to end up being more of a funding issue than any other kind of issues. It's, you know, I've also heard a lot about this piece of property, and I guess from where I'm sitting, this piece of property has become important because that's where people are at. Not necessarily because that's where, if we were going to put people that they would want, they would choose to be there, or we would choose, or the group supporting them think they would choose to be there, right? Is this the right piece of property if we're going to go through the process of working with the city, trying to deal with those ordinances? If you're going to look at the health department and spend the funding to meet those funding things, it seems to me the first question is where? And then we get a whole conversation about, you know, is it good to have one or is it good to have multiple smaller ones? You know, and there's a whole huge amount of questions that are in there. You know, I work for the county, and you know, I know that the county commissioners are sympathetic, right? But they're also concerned because part of our role as government is to follow rules. And we're not following rules here, right? And that's pretty clear. We can change some rules. We can't change some other rules, but I think that in my mind, the bigger conversation is with everybody who has a stake locally And then how do we make the local decisions work within the state frame?
Your commitment is to fight injustices and fight for everyone within your constituency. And it has already been laid out that leaving this property alone for people to live there would be the best solution. Y'all are creating more problems by trying to limit this, by staying within rules that clearly are not serving people. So what are you prioritizing?
Our hands are also tied
Oh, yeah.
by state law. And so I think because time's going on, I think we need to come up with resolutions about what to do next. And I'm hearing calls for a meeting.
We have worked with organizations that have successfully opposed state policy before.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering if that, something that needs to be on the table right now.
Oh, there's lots. I oppose state policy every year, as does the county. And we're always up there lobbying for and against things. So that's something we do. We just have to be very clear about what policies need to be opposed, and to do that, we need a conversation with the city and with the county council and with the city council and with the organizations and with you guys, because you have the lived experience. So, and all of that needs to happen at another time when these organizations can be there in person, because that's when these happen best.
I will say it would be incredibly, we talked about this in other meetings, it would be incredibly difficult to get large portions of our camp present.
Sure.
Everyone in camp knew you guys were coming today, and you guys spoke to people that wanted to speak to you. Just because we have, had our necks stepped on so many times by all these rules to which you guys are bound. There have been homelessness liaison positions in local frameworks before. They all, trust was broken in every last one of them in kind of egregious ways. In fact, I was passing out flyers at all of the services yesterday, trying to get more people into the room. Thank you, Matt, for being the only person to show up. And the first one I handed out, to the very first woman I saw, her response was, "Will it even matter if I show up for this?" And that is the overall thought process. People do not think that you guys are hearing us. Honestly, I don't think you guys are hearing us. Coming to the meetings and trying this the polite way was not my idea. I think that we're gonna, get assurances in this room, and they're gonna, hold for 30 or 90 days or whatever, and then we're gonna get all of our stuff chucked in the dumpster again. But trying a nice way is the first step, so that's where we are. And I very much hope to be proven wrong in this situation.
Well, I think one of the things that we've agreed to, at least, is to move forward with some sort of written commitment. We can't write it now. We've got 3 years left. We can't write it now, but we can get that rolling. And it sounds like folks want a lot of time to look at it. So we couldn't get it done before the end of the year, because next week is our last meeting. And then the other option is to try to move it forward more quickly and get it done before the end of the year. So I don't know if anybody has any input on that. You have, it would be heard at next week's meeting as an agenda item. That's as quick as we can do it, but otherwise we're in the next year, and it could be a very slow process, and I think slow process. So
before a decision is made on that, can we hear from the last person on Teams?
Yeah, they've had their hand up this entire time.
Hello, can you all hear me?
yes,
Yep.
Okay, hey, this is Jennifer Presley, Monroe County Council President. I just wanted to say a couple of things that I've been hearing throughout this conversation. First and foremost, I appreciate people being able to have this conversation. I appreciate the activists and the folks that have lived experiences who are taking their time out today to come and speak yet again on a near pressing issue for all of us. A couple of things that I really wanted to address, and I hope that my assumptions are not true. But from what I'm hearing, excuse me, a couple of things in this meeting is that we seem to be kind of passing the buck as to who's responsible for what and why things are happening the way they are, because this person didn't say this, or this person didn't do that, or county council didn't do this. So I really hope that I'm not hearing that correctly, because if so, we don't need to be throwing everybody under the bus. That's perfect. The other thing that I wanted to say is, yeah, we all can play together and work together. But commissioners, you all are the executive/legislative body of county government. And the checks and balances with us as county council is we're the fiscal body of the government. And so while I hear, we can pass this on to council, and we can do all those things together and kind of move the buck and wheel towards council and kind of put this responsibility on council. That's fine, up to a certain degree. But again, you all have a decision-making process. And when I hear you all say, like, we're in charge of these types of things, we're in charge of the money, yeah, that's true. But we can also be overridden, the same. Just look at what happened in the meeting earlier, with, respect to what we have put out with 7-Ups. So, yeah, we have the financial responsibility, and that's what we do. However, you all have to work with us in the same and not trying to kind of diminish the work that we are doing. I do appreciate I wish that we could have a conversation with city council, the rest of the county council, the mayor's office, you all as well, and those who have lived experiences, and maybe you can come up with a solution to figure all this out together. The last thing that I wanted to say is, this all has something to do with the word housing. And again, housing is, in Monroe County, is a big old issue. I'm the only person on county council. And we keep hearing everybody today keep saying that there's an issue with housing and the affordability and the issues that we all see with that. We know that, we need different types of housing. However, in the county, it is up to the planning commission to make sure this happens. And at the end of the day, it's also up to commissioners to approve these different types of housing. So we are really serious about those different types of things. We as electeds need to take ownership and responsibilities, even when things don't go the way that we think that they should go, and admit that, move on. But passing the buck on and passing the thing or whomever or whatever, sit down and have a conversation. If you're upset about how they got out of step and they didn't have, or they didn't do what you think they should do, let's sit down and bring to a meeting. I would love to have them and we can have that type of conversation. But again, I really hope as electeds that we really start passing the buck on, that we're not pacifying these folks and saying all the things that they want to hear to their faces. We might say things that they might not necessarily agree with, but what's the common ground? How can we move forward? And how we can make this a solvable solution? Because I do think that it is, but it's going to take us getting out of egos to make this happen. Thank you.
All right, so we do really appreciate everybody being here, and your input and staying, and I know the timing is not ideal, but we were trying to get this done as quickly as we could, and our schedules are limited. But we do need to have further conversations, and I think we can work on initiating. It sounds like folks would rather have something sooner rather than later in terms of a policy written up, or would you prefer to have, but here's what we can do. We can get something written up, and we can talk about it next week, and if there's concerns, or we can postpone voting on it. So we can do kind of both. Okay. And then moving forward, getting something together with city and county government together to address core issues. So, is that, I've taken a lot of notes, so I've heard a lot of ideas.
Are we going to pull out that 30-day thing?
Well, that can be part of next week, if you want.
Just for the record, we talked to Mary Hogan. She's going to forward me the encampment brochure so that I believe there's a request to have everything kind of unified across
Well, really,